At the end of the 1980s, while America concerned itself with the crack epidemic, Boy George was running one of the most lucrative and aggressive heroin organizations in the city. Flamboyant and charismatic, the Puerto Rican drug baron was one of a kind. Equal parts gangster and gentleman who juxtaposed street smarts and ruthless efficiency to create a heroin empire. George Rivera, better known as Boy George, was born in Puerto Rico and moved to New York City with his family during his early childhood. The family settled in the South Bronx, an area notorious for its high crime rates, poverty, and urban decay during the 1970s and 1980s. Growing up in this environment, Rivera was exposed to the harsh realities of street life, where the allure of quick money, through illegal activities, often overshadowed the more legitimate, albeit limited, opportunities available to young men in the neighborhood. As a teenager, Rivera was drawn into the street culture that dominated his surroundings. He witnessed firsthand the wealth and power that local drug dealers wielded, and he quickly realized that the drug trade offered a way out of poverty. He began his criminal career with small-time hustling, but his ambition and intelligence soon propelled him to higher levels of the illicit business. By the mid-1980s, Rivera had built a formidable drug empire in the South Bronx area. Known by his moniker, Boy George, a nod to his young age, when he first emerged as a significant player in the drug trade, Rivera became one of the most powerful and feared drug lords in New York City. His operation was primarily centered around the distribution of heroin and crack cocaine, both of which were in high demand and had devastating effects on the community. Boy George Rivera's drug operation was meticulously organized. He established a strict hierarchy within his organization, modeled in part after traditional mafia structures. This hierarchy ensured that operations ran smooth and that discipline was maintained. He employed a large number of workers, ranging from street-level dealers who distributed the drugs, to enforcers who ensured that his rules were followed and that competitors were dealt with swiftly and brutally. Rivera's rise coincided with the era of other notorious drug lords in New York, such as Kenneth Supreme McGriff of the Supreme Team. While Rivera and McGriff operated in different boroughs, Rivera in the Bronx and McGriff in Queens, their operations shared similarities in their ruthlessness and efficiency. The Supreme Team, known for its military-like structure and violent enforcement of its territory, likely influenced Rivera's approach to running his own organization. Rivera's alliances and business acumen helped him secure his position at the top. He formed strategic partnerships with other powerful figures in the drug trade, ensuring a steady supply of narcotics and creating a network that could outmaneuver law enforcement efforts. At its peak, Rivera's drug empire was raking in millions of dollars annually. The South Bronx became a hub for drug distribution, with Rivera's organization controlling vast swathes of territory. The economic impact on the community was profound. While Rivera and his associates enjoyed lavish lifestyles, marked by expensive cars, luxurious homes, and high-end fashion, the broader community suffered from increased violence, addiction, and socio-economic decline. Rivera's operation was notorious for its brutality. He maintained control through fear and violence, employing enforcers who were tasked with intimidating, assaulting, and even murdering those who posed a threat to his business. This included rivals, potential informants, and sometimes even his own workers who stepped out of line. The violent reputation of Rivera and his organization ensured that few dared to challenge him, allowing him to maintain a stranglehold on the drug trade in the South Bronx area. Boy George was a multi-millionaire by the age of 21. A brilliant and powerfully ambitious drug entrepreneur who saw an opportunity and seized it. It's alleged he made over $15 million in his 2-year run. Government sources say that Boy George and his Bronx-based heroin organization grossed $250,000 a week. Boy George, barely out of his teens, built himself a reputation of being one of the wealthiest drug lords from New York and one of the youngest to be charged with the Kingpin statute. Rivera's high-profile activities did not go unnoticed by law enforcement. Throughout the 1980s, the NYPD and federal agencies launched numerous investigations into his operations. Rivera was adept at evading capture, employing a combination of counter-surveillance techniques, bribery, and sheer intimidation to keep the authorities at bay. However, by 1987, law enforcement had gathered enough evidence to take significant action. A major investigation culminated in Rivera's arrest in 1988, along with several of his top associates. The charges against him were extensive, including drug trafficking, racketeering, and multiple counts of murder. The subsequent trial was a major event, drawing widespread media attention and symbolizing the broader fight against the drug epidemic that was ravaging American cities. Rivera's trial revealed the full extent of his criminal activities. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence, including testimonies from former associates who had turned state's evidence, wiretap recordings, and financial records that detailed the vast sums of money flowing through his organization. The trial painted a damning picture of Rivera as a ruthless and violent drug lord who had little regard for the lives he destroyed. In 1991, George Rivera was convicted on all charges and sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. His conviction was seen as a significant victory for law enforcement and a major blow to the drug trade in New York City. However, the removal of Rivera did not eliminate the demand for drugs, and other dealers quickly moved in to fill the void left by his incarceration. The story of Boy George Rivera is a stark illustration of the devastating impact of the drug trade on urban communities. His rise to power, marked by violence and ruthless ambition, reflects the broader socio-economic issues that plagued New York City during the 1980s. The South Bronx, already struggling with poverty and neglect, was further destabilized by the influx of drugs and the accompanying violence. Rivera's operation left a lasting legacy on the community. The addiction, crime, and social decay that accompanied his drug empire had long-term effects on the South Bronx, effects that are still felt today. His story is a grim reminder of the human cost of the drug trade, where the pursuit of wealth and power comes at the expense of countless lives. Interestingly, during his time in prison, Rivera made attempts to cooperate with law enforcement. Like many high-profile criminals facing life sentences, he offered information on other drug operations in exchange for potential leniency. His cooperation provided valuable insights into the workings of New York's drug trade, but it did little to change his own circumstances. Rivera's efforts to cooperate highlight the complex dynamics of life behind bars for notorious criminals, where alliances and information can become valuable currency. Boy George Rivera's life is a complex narrative of ambition, violence, and the devastating consequences of the drug trade. From his early days in the South Bronx to his rise as one of New York City's most feared drug lords, Rivera's story encapsulates the harsh realities of urban crime. His operation, marked by brutal enforcement and a hierarchical structure, exemplified the extreme measures taken by those in the drug trade to maintain control and maximize profits. Rivera's eventual downfall and life imprisonment underscore the relentless efforts of law enforcement to combat the drug epidemic, despite the immense challenges they faced. His conviction was a significant victory, but it also highlighted the ongoing struggle to address the root causes of drug addiction and trafficking. Today, the legacy of Boy George Rivera serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of the drug trade and the enduring impact it has on communities. His life story, with all its violence and ambition, remains a powerful chapter in the history of New York City's battle against drugs, reflecting broader themes of crime, punishment, and the quest for redemption.